So in that basement of burnout, in that area of just like, I give up, I need to finish this last project and tap out and
Yep.
buy a tiny little boat and just float down the river until eternity comes, right? That forced me to really look and ask the questions, why? Why am I still doing this? Because I could just tap out right now.
Wow. So you in this process of kind of creating the sunset, the sunset course and walking
Yeah.
away and floating into your own sunset, you found a path to more authenticity. But and in that, I can see a number of things that happened. So you stopped your practice. So you didn't re-register for your license. You're listening to the Brave OT podcast with me, Carlin Neek. This podcast is all about empowering occupational therapists to step up, level up, blaze some trails, and maybe engage in a little conscious rebellion in service of our profession, our clients, our work, our businesses, and living our mission wholeheartedly. We are all about keeping it real, doing hard things, unhustling, being curious, exploring, growing through our challenges, and finding joy, fulfillment, and vitality as we do so. Really, we're OTing ourselves and each other. I hope you love this episode. Today's conversation on the Brave OT podcast is with somebody who isn't an OT, but who gets it. Dr. Jess Reynolds, a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and educator with a gift for talking about the things we often shy away from: burnout, alignment, identity, and how much our work is shaped by the work we haven't yet done for ourselves. In this episode, we get really vulnerable and share a lot of our stories of struggle and how those have shaped us. We talk about the moments that make us want to throw in the towel, the projects that bring us back to life, and the kind of inner work that builds outer success. Jess and I share our experiences about what it really looks like to reimagine your business, not just for profit, but for integrity and for vitality. You'll hear us chat about education, self-compassion, being at the introvert table, act, and what happens, of course, your building ends up rebuilding you. If you've been feeling stuck, misaligned, or just craving a deeper conversation about being a helping professional in 2025, this one's for you. I want to give a shout out to Jane for two reasons. One, they're our podcast sponsor. And two, because Jane actually brought Jess and I together as we're both ambassadors. And something I really love about Jane, once I got to meet a lot of other ambassadors, is that they really get behind having people like us represent their brand. Small business owners with a whole lot of heart and soul. Building rapport with your clients is important during appointments, and that can be challenging when you're also trying to take timely and detailed documentation. That's why Jane built AI Scribe to help you document important information without the manual note taking. This feature transforms your session recordings into chart entries. All you have to do is review your notes, sign the chart, and you're done. And since security is top priority at Jane, AI Scribe was built securely in-house to be fully HIPAA and PIPEDA compliant. With a tool you can trust, Jane helps you spend more time on your client care. To learn more about how Jane can help you feel about documentation, head to the link in the show notes to book a demo and sign up. And if you're ready to go, don't forget to use my code VITALITY for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Hey, Jess, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm really excited to have you here as a non-OT sharer.
Thank you. I'm really grateful to be here. We've had a number of conversations, and pretty much every time I think to myself, dang it, we should have been recording this. So I'm glad that we're actually doing that.
Isn't that true? Well, that's very true. We've done recording things together, but we've had lots of really good sideline conversations, and we've got to spend a lot more time together these last few months.
Yeah. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, totally. For those who are listening, I'm going to get Jess to introduce himself in a moment to frame who he is, but I'm going to tell you why he's here first. Jess is somebody that I met through Jane, the Jane app. Jane sponsors this podcast, and Jess and I were invited together as two practitioners and ambassadors for Jane in Calgary when last year, I think they brought us together for lunch and said, hey, what if we put on an event? What was it called?
Be Well Summit.
The Be Well Summit. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They hosted us. And
Yeah.
so it was you and me and Mel and Ildi. We all have different backgrounds. And we decided to make it about burnout as health practitioners and business owners, but not in a, hey, you just need to have better work-life balance and do more self-care. That was not how that day went at all. And It was a really fun day. But since then, we've got to do more collaborations and things, and we'll share about those as we get into the conversation. Can you tell the listeners what your background is and why you do what you do?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. I've been practicing now for, oh gosh, about 13 years. I've done a bunch of different ways of practicing. I've owned my own clinic where I had different practitioners working for me. I've done the whole mobile thing, which is great. Now I'm currently doing a home based business. Interestingly enough, though, my acupuncture license I've put on pause for just this year, just kind of work on some other projects and reevaluate things. So that's the professional background as far as my modality. But in addition to that, I've been an educator for the very vast majority of my career in the wellness world. I've taught at different colleges, acupuncture colleges, massage colleges, osteopath colleges, lots of yoga workshops, and I own a continuing education company that largely works on not the skill based stuff, not like teaching how to do another skill, but sort of, I guess you could call it soft skills, the inner work that helps us become better practitioners. And that's a very 30,000-foot overview of my professional career.
Yeah. And that's where I think a lot of our overlap lies, not only in the values and ways we do things in it, but that sense of the inner workings is our shared interest, right? That business coaching is cool and we do enough of that, but more of that kind of inside out, who are you? How do you show up in this world of business and practice and how do you take care of yourself in that? How you do that effectively? How do you manage the stuff that comes up inside as we try new things? We've got a shared passion there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when I was first getting into teaching, I taught all practical stuff. And then I was teaching at a massage college. And at some point in time, they said, we have this module. It needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. It's called Psychology of the Body. Jess, do you want to do it? Because when I was going through TCM school in my practice, I largely specialized in psycho-emotional disorders through a TCM lens. So I had
Okay.
kind of this psych background. And after teaching a whole bunch of different topics, I found universally after I'd finished one of the psych modules, maybe it was about self awareness or creative imagery, students would come up and be like, wow, like that, I cannot believe how helpful that class was. And that really clicked a light bulb for me, realizing like I've never had somebody come up to me and be like, you know what, cupping has changed my life now that I can do that. Or this new needling technique, thank you so much. But the number of times I had people come up after those psych classes, it really got me thinking that this is an underserved thing. Like people aren't talking about it when it turns out it's like such an essential part of being a practitioner.
Yes. And looking at people holistically as whole beings, whole humans who are spiritual, cognitive, emotional, affective, and physical. Those are perspectives that are foundational in both of our professions too, that we see people as whole. And so if we ignore those affective and internal and cognitive parts, we've missed the boat. Like we can't actually deal with a human without looking at those things and considering them.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it frustrating the first little while when I was teaching in the massage college specifically, because it was like we could not talk about anything not specifically related to the body. Like it was, don't talk about, you say the word spirituality or you say body, mind, soul. Like, no, get out of here. You're fired. The body, 100%. The mind, we could acknowledge it existed, but anything beyond that, it was absolutely not, which was so shocking to me as a
Yeah.
TCM practitioner because, of course, we learn there's no body, mind, soul connection because they're literally the same thing.
Yes.
So to understand that there are so many different modalities and practitioners out there whose primary education is teaching them you only focus on the body, you only focus on the mind, and let's not even say that horrible four-letter S word out loud. It was very
Wow.
shocking to me.
Yeah, that is
Mhm.
really interesting because I would have assumed that would be fully integrated. So it's very surprising. In the Canadian model of occupational therapy, it's evolved and changed. But the one I was trained on, spirituality was actually at the center of the model. So there would be environments, then like person aspects, physical, cognitive, affective, but then spiritual was right in the middle with the person. And then there would be occupations and different types of occupations that were in these concentric shapes. But so I would have expected your practice to be more oriented to that kind of spirituality, and not necessarily from a religious perspective, but that sense of who you are and your place in the world.
Yeah. In TCM, it is, but
Yeah.
outside of that, pretty much all the other modalities I've worked with,
Gotcha.
it's less integrated. It's less talked about for one reason or another, and it's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. So when these students were coming up to you and sharing how impactful that was, were they just talking about for their practice or were they talking about for themselves?
That's a good question. I suppose we have to get into identity when we talk about that because what I've found with wellness practitioners is the identity of practitioner is something that comes out of it's not just isolated to occupation. Like I have a trades background and I was an electrician, but once I finished work, it's not like electrical work is something I thought about or read about or anything like that. Whereas wellness practitioners, so many of us, we finish our day seeing clients and patients, and then we still are going to read a journal on some new study in our field. So the reason I say this is because I can't really separate whether they were talking specifically about their life or their practice, because particularly at that stage in their education, they were so intermixed and intermingled.
Yeah.
My hope was it would indeed do both. It would help them show up better in their life in all aspects with their friends, their family, their kids, but also help them develop the capacity to show up more fully and present with their patients and clients. To answer that
Yeah.
question, I'm hopeful that it was both.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that stage where it's while you're teaching it, they haven't yet fully gone and applied it yet. But I've found like learning acceptance and commitment therapy or ACT. I did the training in 2015. And then come 2019, I started developing like a whole brand around supporting other clinicians in using ACT personally and professionally. And so I've used it in pretty much everything I've done from well, in your business course that's coming out, we'll talk about that soon. I used a lot of ACT, but it's the reason most of my stuff is called Activate Vitality. It's ACT
Mhm.
because learning ACT, I sought out to learn it as a clinical skill, but learning to practice it because it's very grounded in mindfulness. I couldn't help but practice it myself in my life, and it was life-changing to learn that personally. It changed how I approached handling stressors of day to day, how I was rolling with things, how I was getting curious and being more and more intentional about what I was doing, the way I was working, the way I was spending my time, the people I was spending time with. All of those things evolved as I developed more grounded awareness in myself and
Mm.
who I am and what I care about, and able to remain present with difficult thoughts and feelings and experiences that inevitably came up. And it changed the course of my life and business, learning this one clinical skill. And it can be so powerful, right? If we are finding things that gel with us personally and professionally, because I can't think about myself and my business without thinking about my life and that context of how my business needs to serve my life, right? Like, again, back to that whole human thing. We're not just workers, we're not just at home. It's not work life balance per se, it's work as a part of life.
As you describe that, I'm curious if you've had a similar experience to something that I've just come to really accept and understand within myself.
Okay.
So, practitioner, yes, but a huge part of what I do, in fact, the vast majority, is education, be it conferences, online stuff, or colleges.
Yeah.
And I find that I'll teach something and then I'll get kind of bored of it and move on to the next thing. But then there are these few topics where I can't quite drop it. And the thing that I've recently realized is the topics I'm most interested in teaching are the ones that I most need to learn and work on myself. Like I will be obsessed with teaching about authenticity, and I have been for years because of an unbelievable lack of authenticity in myself. That
Mm,
I'm like, maybe if I just teach other people about it, I won't have to do it myself. If
yeah.
I just learn everything there is to learn about it and then teach other people, I'm good. That's something I've been experiencing when I think of the topics I'm most passionate about teaching. And I'm super curious as some like when you think about ACT, like is there any part of you that you think was drawn to ACT because it was the thing you most needed to learn?
Oh my gosh, yes. So my dad died in 2012 and I did the ACT training in 2015. And my dad was only 59. He was sick for only 2 months. It was very unexpected. And that experience of going through that 2 months of intensive illness while my kids were really little and my business had just started shortly before that, or like I'd just gone all in on my business like the year before that. Many things came to a crisis at that point, and I used many tools to try and get myself through. I didn't necessarily turn, oh, ACT is the thing I'm doing, but I was exploring and I was working in mental health with other clients too, as I'm trying to navigate my own mental health and this new business. And I was turning a lot to more mindfulness based practices and meditation and trying to find these things that were still really validating for my clients and allowing them to be there with these difficult thoughts and feelings while I'm going through the one of the most difficult experiences of my life. And that led me on this pathway where I discovered ACT. So I was learning it for both at the same time, but then because it was so powerful, probably at the time that I needed that power myself, it left so much more of an impact on me, I think, because I needed to find it. And that is how I've become really passionate. But it's an interesting thing too, in just thinking about learning theory and looking at different learning strategies. And so sometimes when my kids are studying for something, I'll say, hey, do you want to teach me about that thing as a means for studying? What are you at a stage where you feel like you could sit down and talk about it and show me that diagram and show me how it all works together or something like that? And because it's one of those stages of learning that teaching sets us up for. And recently, you had asked me to put together a module for your course. And at the same time, I was doing a seminar for health seminars. And then I was doing this U of A module. And I had some latitude on the topics for all of these things, but I chose a similar topic across the three platforms because I was working on them at the same time. It was interesting because I could have talked about those things easily before those experiences all came up at once, but because it felt pretty formal, I went and did learn a lot more learning on it so that I could make sure that I was really not just going, this is my experience, let's just wing it and tell you what I did and say that's the way everybody should go. I went and learned a ton. And so I feel like I deepened my knowledge on the topic, which was all about entrepreneurial mindset or that internal work to get that outside success. And so I named it different things, or finding that way to create possibility in your career and in services that are out there by working on the stuff on the inside, sort of setting yourself up as an entrepreneur on the inside so you can perform in that way on the outside and have success and fulfillment and all of those things. But I didn't have great words to describe it myself. And so going and finding, what's the evidence say? What are the other resources? What's the best way to teach this stuff? What are the main principles that we can talk to that people will understand? I deepened my knowledge on that topic tenfold because of that confluence of assignments on the same topic.
It's an interesting process, I find, the process of developing a course and curriculum. They
Mhm.
say that you should know, and how does one measure this? I don't know. But they say that one should know roughly 10 times as much content as you're about to teach. So you
Mhm.
should have such an unbelievably deep well of knowledge in the topic. And I emphasize knowledge because what I'm finding more and more is that worked really well to just simply teach. Like I got pretty solid memory and I know a lot of things.
Yeah.
But then there's this shift that happens between teaching from the place of knowledge and then teaching from the place, sounds cheesy, but then teaching from a place of wisdom or experience. And that's been a fun transition too of there's so much to be learned when it comes to developing a course because of just how much you actually need to know to speak with confidence.
Yeah.
And that's totally doable without any experience. Like anybody can just study. And nowadays, anybody could get ChatGPT to write them a script and sound beautifully eloquent in how they speak and brilliant on a topic.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling more and more that what people are interested in is not just in knowledge, but they want to talk to people who have that deep well of knowledge and significant wisdom and experience surrounding it. And that's been an interesting shift in my own process as I develop courses and curriculums as well.
Totally. And I'm hearing that more and more, that the humanness that we bring is more valuable than ever in this era of at your fingertips. Somebody could put the whole course together, but it's you telling your story and telling about how you tried this and giving case studies and examples and experiences and times when this happened and here's how you handled it. And that personification of the content is where we have to stand out in this new world of limitless information at our fingertips that anybody could put together. Somebody with no experience in an area could put a course together or a workshop together or a book together, even. That our humanness and expertise and experience is more important than ever.
Yeah, that's certainly something I'm exploring more and more. I've
Mm,
noticed over the last 6 months to a year, sales have gone down. Yeah, the
yeah.
economy is the way the economy is, so that might play into it. But talking with other online educators and other people who have online businesses, what we're all finding is exactly what you said is now with the ridiculous oversaturation with knowledge and information that is literally at your fingertips and anybody can do it. I feel like there's a shift and I don't know how to I don't want to say the word capitalize, but I'm going to say the word capitalize.
Yep.
Not as if I want to profit off this like some capitalist, which I kind of am, but
But you need to
to,
shift your business when sales are down,
that's it.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But how to capitalize on this reality, both as a practitioner and as an educator and as an entrepreneur and business owner, just recognizing that there's this huge opportunity right now with the availability of the tech, the chat GPTs and things like that are out there that make our jobs easier.
Yeah.
But in so doing, there's also this other thing that's happening where people are like, this is great, but what about the human connection? So finding the opportunities and the ways to shift business and how we do things again, clinically, as well as with other business. It's been an interesting journey, and I'm not too sure where it's going, but I certainly sense a shift in things.
Yeah. So this is super interesting to I really appreciate you bringing that up because yeah, I found that there have been some lulls, like a couple big lulls in the last couple of years in my business too, where I'm like, whoa, do I have to change something big time? Or is this one of those things where we ride it out? And not in my OT practice, that can always be full. It's I keep that small so that I can do all this interesting stuff and create things and reach people on a bigger scale and have that impact by helping the helpers and they help other people if they're doing well too. But it's an interesting thing because I've often had this theory, which I'm starting to take some chunks out of now, and because the world's changing, is that so my Activate Vitality program, its main strength is that it's a community of international therapy business owners. It's all OTs, though I would certainly invite other professions in. And we come together collaboratively to figure things out. There's some course content around a transformative process using acceptance and commitment therapy to build people's capacity to be there with the difficult stuff and be more resilient in the face of the challenges of life and business. But really, I feel like the magic is in these group coaching calls and these community calls where people are there together and they're from different countries and they're sharing in, oh my gosh, like this happened, or I don't know how to handle that, or I'm spinning out about this thing that happened in my business or in my life or in them together. And that there's the wisdom of other people who are empathizing and validating and sharing how they've solved similar problems or just even spitballing it together and having a space to be open about that and collaborative and not feel so alone because many of us are solo practitioners. And I've often found that harder to sell than the clinical course or a technical course. People are wanting to invest in that. CEUs, do I get CEUs for that
Mhm.
sort of thing? But I really stand strong in the value of this community. And so it's interesting to think about how I try to deal with that in my business. But I know you in your business, you're right now creating a really big course with the intention of actually not having a lot of community with it so that it can stand alone and have some momentum on its own and have lots of comprehensive information, but not necessarily community. So tell me about your thinking
Mhm.
on that.
Yeah, good question. I'm going to put a couple mental pins on my cognitive bulletin board here.
Okay.
Yes, the plan with this course. So, just for everybody listening, is I'm working on this course as we've alluded to a number of times, and
Yeah.
this course is sort of for the person who is call it 2 to 5 years out of school. They got their legs, they know what they're doing. They're out of that, oh my God, what do I do now phase. And they're starting to make some actual decisions as far as where one wants to go with their business. It could be for someone who's still in school for all that matters, but kind of
Yep.
that 2 to 5 years. And the whole idea is to provide a course that is okay. How do you set yourself up as a business owner and you do it as consciously as possible to make sure that you avoid burnout, that you actually love the business that you built, you enjoy the people you want to work with, that you know how to market in a way that doesn't feel icky, to do all the things that we need to do that nobody teaches us in school, but do it in a way that's designed for wellness practitioners. Because Lord knows I've taken a ton of business courses out there that are mostly just like, how do you 10x your blah blah blah, and it's just like this is
Yeah.
so it's like a business course that doesn't feel icky. And quite frankly, it's actually the psychology of the body course I used to teach in disguise as a business course because
Yeah.
that's basically what one needs to understand in order to develop business is how to do the inner work. So
Yeah.
that's what this is. And I could go on it, but to answer your specific question about this idea of pre-recorded content and this shifting terrain. Well, what I'm contemplating now, particularly over the last couple of months, putting everything together, is I have to make a pivot
Mhm.
because the demand for pre-recorded courses exists, but it's still going down.
Mm.
So the whole ethos, one of the reasons I started my education company in the first place was frustration with continuing education. It sucks that we are mandated to do this stuff. And I'm vaguely aware that OTs don't have the same mandates as, say, acupuncture, massage, and a couple of the others like
There are some
physiotherapy.
differences. We have to do
Yeah,
continuing ed, but it's less strict.
right. Yeah, yeah. So we're all, in some degree or another, we're mandated to take continuing education.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating about it is we have to do it, but so few of us actually want to because the almost all of the courses out there are like another technique. And
Yeah.
in the first 5 to 10 years, sure, we like to collect techniques. But so many of us are just like, let's collect them all because we think more techniques makes us a better practitioner, which at some point in time we all realize, actually, you know what? Funnily enough, I learned ACT 8 years ago and it's literally all I need, or something like that. We all need to take this. We don't really want to take it. And then the things we actually do want to take tend to be quite expensive. We have to travel for it. But so many of us, we've got families, we've got work. And in that 3 to 5 year period, we're paying off student loans and we're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So the idea behind my company was to provide the absolute highest quality continuing education at the most affordable price in a way that is time conscious, that they can take it whenever they want. And that's the niche, right?
Yeah.
I don't want
Really
to abandon that.
accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very accessible on all accounts for time, for money, for everything. And I don't want to abandon that because that's still really important to me. So what I'm thinking of doing now is sell that as it's like you can do this on your own. You've got every single thing you need to succeed as a business wellness business owner by doing it on your own. And that's going to be one price, a very approachable, affordable price.
Yeah.
But then there will be this other price where it's okay. Also, you can take all of the online stuff, and every week or 2 weeks, we're going to have a community call where we're going to get
Mm.
together and we're going to talk about these things. And that's tier 2. And then
Yeah.
tier 3 is I'm actually going to offer it in person. I think I'm going to offer an
Mm.
in-person version of it where these are 8 Saturdays where we get together. There's 10 or 12 of us at one of the colleges that I used to teach at and probably will teach at again. I'm entertaining that as well. Just really acknowledging that so many of us in the wellness field, we are lonely,
Yeah.
and the opportunity to take education online is really nice. But
Yeah.
also, so many of us crave that community and connections. So shifting my business more to offer and meet all of those needs from the people who just want to learn, they want to do it on their own time, to the people who want to connect and build relationships.
That's really cool. When did you make that shift mentally to thinking you're gonna add these different kind of community elements?
I think I was mid shift when we were at the ambassador meetup
Yeah.
where we all went together. Cause I was kind of
In
like
Palm Springs.
in Palm Springs. Yeah,
Yeah.
really recognizing that was a bad month for me financially. Like the number of sales, I'm like, oh man, okay, this is scary because if I have 2 months like this, then that's a pretty strong indication things are, the tides are shifting fast. So
Yeah.
I knew I had to change something. And it was right around that time, just a couple months ago, a month and a half ago, where I realized I need to make a shift and
Yeah.
a pretty powerful pivot, to use that language.
Yeah.
I wasn't too sure what it was going to be, but those ideas were just percolating around then.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense too, because I had a bunch of stuff going on at the same time and multiple events piling up in person strangely too. And we spend so much time in this online world. And I feel like I'm really great at making online connections and beautiful community spaces that are transformative and that sort of thing through online connection. But then showing up and being there in real life with real people, the depth of the connection is so different. We got so used to doing stuff online in the pandemic and stuff that it's almost like a, "Oh, right, right, that exists too," and actually, it really is deeply impactful to have that. There are so many systems that are connecting together when we are in person with each other that we can't see, we can't detect, we feel the difference.
I'm like 99th percentile introvert. Hey, like
Yeah,
when the pandemic came, I'm like, thank God I don't have to see anybody for months. This is
totally,
great. Maybe even years. This is exactly, there's a group of us, people out there
totally,
listening. You know who you are.
totally.
Yeah. And I was so happy with it. And I like after the world opened up again, I'm like, no, it's fine. I'll just carry on doing this. And I maintained that level of isolation for quite some time afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, this has got to end. And then I'd go to a conference and I didn't like it. I'm like,
Mm,
this isn't the vibe that I want. It's just there's too much noise and there's people and there's like,
exhausting. It's all
it's
the
like,
peopling.
hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm this person and here's what I do. And it's just, so what I'm realizing too, as I think about these in-person things that I'm interested in both participating and facilitating, it's not necessarily targeted at introverts, but it's like, okay, we got this craving to connect with people, but I would love to create an environment in a situation where people can connect and it's quiet. It's like there's no loud, there's no having to talk over people. And I don't know about you, but when you're at like a dinner party or a potluck or something like that, and there's conversations that are making different patterns across the table, it fries my brain. I
Yeah,
can't
me
do
too.
it.
Totally. And I feel as in my personality too, I'm not great at jumping into those conversations. I'll try, but the more dominant folks will always talk over me. It's just that sort of presence in a big group. I'm not big. I end up then feeling like, oh, nobody even wants to hear what I have to say because
Like,
I can't even get a word in edgewise, sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, I 100% agree. I'm just thinking back to the Jane Ambassador event. There were a number of times in which there were these big get-togethers and people are talking, and I'd go and stand at a table and just be like, "This sucks," and then I'd just go sit somewhere else, and then sit at a table. And eventually, somebody like yourself or somebody else would
Come and sit at the introvert
come sit and
table
like,
with you.
"Okay, this is better. This is better."
We were literally sitting on a table that was furthest
Yeah.
removed from the big group that was
Yeah,
quieter.
it was beautiful.
And I think we
Yeah,
started naming it the introvert table. So when the more
yeah.
extroverted people came around, they're like, maybe I don't want to be here. You guys.
What's with this vibe? You're way too calm and quiet and speaking softly.
Exactly.
I love you, all the extroverts out there. Absolutely love you. But
Absolutely.
there should be an introvert table at every gathering.
Totally. We're the ones with the earplugs in, extra sensitive souls. I went to the pool party because it was a couple days into, and I was like, okay, I didn't know exactly if, like, I just walked in on my own and I tried to join a few conversations that were really, and I was like, I'll just stand here for a little bit. Okay, yeah, no, that wasn't my people. Come stand over here. Maybe I'll just go in the pool. And then Ildy came.
Oh, thank God for Ildy.
God for Ildy. Always thank God for Ildy.
Totally.
Oh, that's funny. So I can totally see how that timing would make sense that we were doing some engaging, that you were like, okay, I'd like to create an intentional kind of in-person engagement, and you've got these levels, which kind of complicates it from a business perspective, but you can have some kind of cycles and automations and things too, where you can be selling one thing constantly and then having these other kind of streams that you can build in. But it is a move away from the original. I remember you telling me over lunch about your original idea. It was going to be pretty simple from a business perspective, that this thing's going to be great. It's going to be comprehensive. It's going to be pretty hands off. People can buy it when they need it. So this complicates things a little bit. How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty fine with it. The back end complication stuff, I actually enjoy it. I enjoy the puzzle of figuring out how these things fit together.
Yeah.
And along with the complication, strangely enough, I believe also comes freedom. Because what
Mm,
I'm realizing more and more as I get through, I'm on year 6 of my education company, and I've kind of made all the courses that I want to make or
mhm,
can make. I'm kind of out of pre-recorded courses to make. And through working with people like yourself and Ildi and the 8 other instructors that I've got contributing to this course, all of which, minus Paul, the marketing guy, are Jane ambassadors. What I'm coming to realize more and more is I really enjoy helping other educators create
mm,
content. Like, it's been a real joy for me to work with like you and bring a vision to life, turn it into a course. I really enjoy that process. And additionally, what I'm discovering through it is when I first started AIM, so my company's AIM Wellness Education, when I first started AIM, I was just on the heels of 8 years of teaching this psychology course, and I taught it every 2 months. So every 2 months, I'd get a new cohort, and it was a 9-week course, and it was 3 hours every week. And I did that for 8 years. I mean, I got 6,000 hours of teaching this course in, and I still loved it.
oh, okay.
And
I
yeah,
was thinking in my mind, oh my gosh, like it would be like a monologue that you've done over and over, like you'd be tired of it. But no, you loved it
one
still.
would think, yeah, other things that I did that with, like orthopedic assessment and like needling techniques, and That I got bored of real quick.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I loved talking about it, largely because I needed to learn these lessons. But
Mhm.
also, I've been interested in self development and inner work since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So I promise I'm long way rounding my way to answering your question here.
We always go a long way around on this
Good,
podcast.
good
It's all good.
good stuff. So I started this education company with this idea in mind. Okay, I'm going to take everything I've learned through the years and thousands of hours of teaching this content, and I'm going to turn it into an online course. And this happened like just before COVID. But I did the tiniest little bit of market research you could possibly imagine, which is to say, ask like 15 people I knew. And the need for the content that I'm interested in teaching is very high. The demand for it is very low. So I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start an education company. I'll do the thing where there's high demand, and then I'll just kind of like sneak attack. I'll add some of this self
Sneak attack.
awareness, self development stuff in. And after years of trying to do that and it failing over and over again, like literally the number of times I tried to develop a psychology of the body or some sort, and it getting almost no traction, it was devastating. It's, oh, I've got this passion and I know people love it. I've got
It's good. You see the
thousands, yeah.
impact. Yes.
And when I teach it in person, when people are forced to go to it because it's part of a college curriculum, they love it. So I know it's good.
But
And
why
yet
won't they buy it?
nobody
Yeah,
wants to buy it. So
totally.
here I am teaching all these technique courses, which I have zero interest in. And it's just not interesting to me anymore.
Mhm.
Trying to find a way to teach what I'm passionate about and it not working. And then the idea occurred to me through a number of confluent events that, hold on a second. It turns out a big part of business is all the exact same things when I talk about being a practitioner. Self
Yeah.
awareness, as I keep saying that because it's like an essential thing. Authenticity, understanding alignment, really recognizing the spiritual aspects of burnout. It's like rarely about overwork. It turns out people can work a lot before they get burnt out. It all fits into business. But when I made that click, I'm like, okay, this is enjoyable and I can do it. And there is a demand for it and it lets me fill that need. To answer your question, how do I feel about the extra amount of work? Great, because that extra amount of work is doing something that I actually am enjoying doing. And it's information that I feel very strongly about. So I feel pretty good with it.
So, if I may reflect back what I'm hearing, there was this set of content that was about inner work that was previously paired alongside clinical education. And people had to take it because maybe it was coming along with clinical education on its own. It wasn't really selling. And so the idea of now pairing it with the tangible of business education is the thing that makes it likely more easy to sell, right? That kind of that it's going to really enhance business for people and that in that way selling it as a business course is the thing. That's the sneak attack, the new sneak attack, so to speak. Did I get that right?
You did, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because 'cause I'm in that space. That's the space I've been in, but I still find it tricky to because I still hesitate to say I'm a business coach. I think that's part of it. Actually, I have a sticky on here. It says, "Confession, I really am a business coach." That's maybe a podcast episode coming out or maybe a marketing campaign or something like
Nice.
that. Because I so hesitate to say that I'm gonna give you all of the technical strategy to run your business when my audience is international too. Like, I don't know exactly how to set up a business in Michigan or in New York or that sort of thing, and I don't really want to claim to be the nitty-gritty business coach. However, everything I'm teaching creates that foundation. You can find those answers, right? But that
That's it.
that foundation to show up as an entrepreneur, show up as a resilient business person, a person who can think in these ways and roll with things and get curious and excited about stuff and excited about those challenges, just like you've demonstrated too. Whereas a lot of people can get stuck in, oh no, that's too many technical things. If I've got too many moving parts, I can't do that. I'm just going to stick with it. Whereas you're like,
Mhm.
hey, here's a need. I'm feeling this. I can see. Let's figure out how to add on those layers of upgrading or shifting into other models and stuff.
Right. And that actually gets to an interesting sort of segue or particular point. And it is about burnout and resilience. It's something that virtually every single wellness practitioner needs to understand intimately and soon. Like the sooner practitioners can really understand what leads to burnout and start implementing systems to prevent it to the best of one's ability, because I'm not sold on the fact that it's 100% preventable, the
Right.
better. And
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that I've come to realize over the years, largely through my own lived experience, has to do with alignment. So,
Mm.
alignment takes a lot of soul searching. Like, you got to do a lot of inner work to figure out the fact that it turns out I really don't like working with perimenopausal women. Maybe not that much soul searching. Like, you get these clients that you end up working with that totally zap your energy. And
Yeah.
one of the things that can lead to burnout is developing practice that's not in alignment. So, you want to have a successful business, a
Mhm.
sustainable business that's burnout proof. You got to do some work and you got to figure out, who do I want to work with? Why do I want to work with them? And those might seem like pretty easy questions to answer, but for a lot of us, they're not. They require quite a bit of delving into the deep.
And it's so much deeper the way like many business coaches would say you need to niche down. That on the surface, that's what you're saying, but it is the pathway of introspection and self-knowing and self-awareness and paying attention to how you're impacted and energized and depleted by different things is a really important pathway to do that well. It's not just choosing a niche. It's that inner alignment and
Yeah.
where you feel like that where you can get into flow, right? There are certain kind of areas where we can notice that there's a Mark Cuban quote that I've been throwing into some of my things lately about follow your effort, not your passion is the quote. But what he's really meaning is like pay attention to those places where you'll go and do all the research and you want to learn more and you're like voraciously consuming and finding info and getting excited when you see another thing on that. Like that's the effort. Very often it is your passion, but paying
Mhm.
attention to that cue of there being a momentum and a propulsion that's almost driven beyond your effort, which can also burn you out. You have to pay attention to that. The more passionate or the more that you're in that flow, you could sometimes go on and work and forget to take care of yourself.
What I found about that flow is I kind of view it as momentum,
Mm.
is my personality and the personality of a lot of the entrepreneurial types, like people like you and I and other people who don't just do one thing, but got a lot of things in the air, is I'm really interested in something until I get it, until I understand how it
And then you're
works, and
not.
then
Yeah.
I'm not interested in it. But sometimes it takes a lot of momentum and a lot of work to get to the point where I understand something, like building my company. It took 5 years to get that to the point where it's okay. I really genuinely deeply understand the process of building an online education business. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm so invested in it now that even though it's not my passion, even though it's not the thing I really want, the momentum is so great that I just continue doing it. So it started out being a great thing to do. Like, I enjoyed every bit of it, even though I wasn't interested in some of the topics I was teaching. I was interested in, how do I do this?
Mm.
So I think part of the self awareness is continuing to check in on that, continuing to reevaluate the why and the purpose, because it can change. And maybe once you've solved the problem, you're just not interested in it anymore. And when you keep pushing like you're interested in it, it also
Mhm.
leads to burnout.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. So the next thing I'm gonna say, we can edit it out if you end up not wanting to share this. But what you're reminding me of in this moment is when you were like you told me exactly that, that once you've been interested in something, you're done with it. And that was actually a bit of the foundation of creating this course initially, where you were like, hey, why don't I wrap up everything I know in one great course with some great people that this course is going to be the thing people need. And then I can actually like not be involved in it anymore. Like it was a bit of
Mm.
that I've mastered it. I understand it. I don't want to do it anymore. But why don't I let it do its thing? Like create some automaticity. So again, we can edit this out if it's not a
Oh,
great fit.
no.
But has that shifted? Is that are you telling me that's shifted?
I'm so grateful for that question. And absolutely, let's leave this part of the
Okay.
conversation in.
Okay.
Because as a guy who talks about burnout all the time, I was pretty near basement to burnout over the last couple months. Like, it's been brutal for me
Mm.
over the last few months. So
Yeah.
during those conversations, it was like, I got to figure something out. I got to get an exit because this is so unsustainable. I'm exhausted with
I need to
everything
move
I've been
on.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So during that conversation over, call it a month and a half, 2 months ago,
Yep.
genuinely, that was the intention and inspiration coming from a desperation. I'm wiped. I hate this. I do not enjoy the company I have built. Now, over the since then, having made a few decisions, I'm thinking, okay, what I got back to basics. Okay, Jess, why did you start this company in the first place? I love teaching, love teaching. I believe in accessible education, and I'm super interested in having in-depth conversations and building relationships with people over a period of time where the context is let's do the work. So
Mm.
I went, okay, these are the basics. Okay, if that's it, and I finally figured out the entry point into that, which is the sneak attack business course. Okay, why not do the shift into cohort based online or in person type stuff where I get to build those intimate relationships over a period of time, right? I
Mhm.
get to talk about the important stuff that I'm really passionate about. So in that basement of burnout, in that area of just like, I give up, I need to finish this last project and tap out and
Yep.
buy a tiny little boat and just float down the river until eternity comes, right? That forced me to really look and ask the questions, why? Why am I still doing this? Because I could just tap out right now.
Wow. So you in this process of kind of creating the sunset, the sunset course and walking
Yeah.
away and floating into your own sunset, you found a path to more authenticity. But and in that, I can see a number of things that happened. So you stopped your practice. So you didn't re-register for your license. You engaged a bunch of other people who you feel aligned with. So that and because there was that sense of deepening in-person interpersonal connection authentically, that I would imagine that the process of you choosing people and then working collaboratively with them to create the different elements created probably some refreshing inspiration, bring some vitality into the consideration. And then, but because you disrupted your whole workflow, right? Like you weren't really doing anything like you normally would. That creates a little bit more room for re-energizing and creativity and thinking of things differently because you're out of the mundane of the day to day, and that brought you to a place of, "Actually, this is what I wanna do." Is
Yeah,
that
sounds about right.
yeah?
Yeah. Mm.
Really cool.
Tack in on top of it some epic life stuff. I got a really sick family member and sister moving and all like rains of pores situation. Yeah, it just got to the point where there wasn't a choice but to reevaluate.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Thank you for
Mm.
sharing that, because like, it's
Oh,
that
pleasure.
people often in roles like ours hesitate to tell people about the basement, that
Yeah.
we don't even wanna look at it ourselves. And
Mhm.
and so from that place, and I can see where a lot of that sort of those roots of your in experiences of mindful awareness, Chinese medicine, and spending time with the monks, and all of the ways
Yeah.
you are showing up as a spiritual human, you are spending time. When I know you're spending time with those challenges and being present with them. But from that
Mhm.
place, you're sharing authentically, and the people who are listening, who are in their basement, I think will really feel that inspiration. There's a leading by example by reflecting, making some
Mhm.
intentional changes, but still leaving yourself some room to pivot that a bit more and find that path that's fulfilling, that maybe doesn't require you to run away from the world.
Mhm. Yeah. I'd say listening to like really listening to the however one's deepest self communicates, whether
Mm.
that's through complete and utter lethargy like myself, like nap o'clock at noon, or brain fog, or whatever it is, however one's deepest self communicates, just listen.
Yeah. There was a time where I had a pretty solid meditation practice that then there was a few months where I was always crying at the end of it. I was like, I don't think I want to meditate anymore. And it was more so that like I was going through a hard time, and the quiet allowed what was the hard time to what was really there to surface. And that was important. And there was also a practice of like that it wasn't starting my day the way I really wanted what it used to do for me, put me in this kind of like super focused and in tune kind of place. It was putting me into to the emotions that were important to deal with at that time. So I shifted my morning routine. And I don't think I defined it as such. I defined it as, well, clearly starting out my day crying isn't what I want to do. And I started puttering with plants and being really mindful about just have a bit of an obsessive plant collection, and but like that connection with nature and going through the paces of checking in on what does this plant need and what's going on there, and do I need to move that to a different window, and maybe I should transplant that, or maybe I could give this to a friend, or like these little things that just came with the nature of having many plants to care for. That changed it, and it was a bit of a warm up to starting my day that was mindful, that was present, that was integrated with nature. It was doing a lot of the same things. The science says it's actually doing a lot of the same things for my brain that meditation had when it wasn't necessarily the crying meditation. And but there for many years I shamed myself for abandoning meditation and not getting back to that practice. And so it's an interesting sort of thing. I love how you acknowledge that do this, like the way you get connected with yourself in the way that you need to. What are the signs? What are the ways that you connect? What are the ways you pay attention? Because it doesn't necessarily look like a yoga mat in a Zen meditation position.
I'm so grateful you said that. I'm so grateful because that's one of the I don't know, we need to come up with a name for it. We should call it like a ChatGPT bits of advice. It's like you ask AI, I'm feeling burnt out. What do I do? And it's you should meditate. And it's like, how should I meditate? Grab a little cushion and sit down. So it's like the super standard advice
Mhm.
is to meditate by sitting down. Or but the reality is it is so fundamentally different for each and every person. Yeah, there might be a bunch of people who all find meditating on a cushion works for them, but out of wager, there's far more of us where the actual solution to getting in touch with the much needed resource is tinkering with plants or getting into the wood shop or just going for a walk or whatever it is. I'm so grateful you mentioned that because mindfulness and tuning into oneself, it's got as many different flavors as there are people, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, occupational therapy, the occupation bit is stuff we do, right? Things we do that occupy our time. It's not just our job, which is more how our English language uses occupation. And so it's so interesting too that as an occupational therapist, I really pay attention to why we do things, how we do things, what do those things do for us? What needs do they satisfy? What how could we enhance, how could we bring in a bit of a different activity that could give that therapeutic effect that you need. And so occupational therapy is often using occupations to provide therapeutic impact, but also enabling people to engage in their meaningful occupation. So it's both the therapy and the outcome. And so geeking out on why and how and what the things we do are is definitely an area of passion for me. And I love talking about it with other people who don't necessarily come from that frame of reference.
I'm curious about something then, because one of my favorite sayings of all time is how you do one thing is how you do all things. And I strongly believe in it. If you pay attention and you're mindful in washing the dishes, you're probably going to be mindful in many other things in your life. So I thought about that saying as you were describing one's occupation. And
Mhm.
how does that land? Does that fit in the OT model, or is it just some sort of pithy saying that sounds great?
So my body had a resistance to the statement. And then I was like, okay, hold on. Listen, what's he saying? And am I hearing it? Are you saying like the word integrity comes to mind? And integrity, when you dissect that word, is if you took a tube of metal, that there would be the same kind of composition throughout. There wouldn't be a flaw. There's integrity throughout. There's a consistency of this thing is the same throughout. And so if you're showing up with integrity in your life, in your being, that you would show up as fully for this task or that task. Or is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If you put away laundry because you hate laundry and you're like, God damn laundry, versus I don't really like laundry, but I'm gonna show up in the same way that I want to show up in all of the interactions I have. So yeah, integrity is a great way of putting it.
And so you're using it in a way to support people in being more intentional in their lives, like showing up in all of their things as a shift, like something to work toward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have to say, so I think where my resistance came in is as having a neurodivergent brain. And so I have ADHD, and some like the pile of laundry can feel like the most impossible task in the whole world to me, and life needs to
Mm.
go on. Sometimes the laundry is contained in a pile of resentment and shame and like a battleground of conflict in my marriage, or like there can be so many things layered on that pile of laundry that I'm like, I'm not doing that pile of laundry. It's gonna stay there. There's
Mhm.
sometimes it can be so sticky and resistant, which is like overly complicated and at the same time so true. And so I need to bring in self-compassion for the fact that my house might be a mess. And at the same time, my kids are loved and my business is carrying on and I'm making a difference in the world. And some things are not going as well. And so I think where my resistance came into that was that sense of, oh, that would work against my self-compassion if I'm like, no, I need to show up for all things as fully. And I'm not doing that if I haven't brushed and flossed my teeth, if I haven't put the laundry
Mm.
away after I did it, if I haven't made a healthy meal, right? That in order for me to do all of these things, I'd probably actually need to not work if I
Mhm.
wanted to be
Mhm.
consistent with all of those things. Like I just don't have the capacity to put as much effort into all things or in all
Right.
seasons. It's not to say that I don't ever floss or I don't ever put the laundry away, but I'd love to hear your response to that because I want to acknowledge there's so much beautiful intention in that sense of showing up fully for yourself and caring for
Mhm.
yourself and caring for your environment fully, that doing those things is worthwhile to show up fully for. And I love that spirit of it. And also had some resistance that I think came from a bit of my capacity.
Yeah. First off, I'm really grateful for the degree of self-awareness of the laundry pile being more than a laundry pile because laundry piles are always more than laundry piles.
Always.
And dishes, putting dishes in the dishwasher is always more like everything's more than it is
Yeah.
in the philosophical sense. So I'm really grateful that you shone a light on that particular reality. So
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
that. And yeah, it definitely makes sense. Like when I hear you explain it that way, I go, yeah, that saying it is overgeneralizing the way that individuals practice life. So I suppose if I really narrow in on the intention of why I enjoy that saying so much is it is a saying of mindfulness. It's when
Mm,
you are doing a thing, do the thing.
be
Like when
there.
you
Do
are
it.
having when you are making supper for the family, whether it's 99-cent craft dinner, if that's still a thing, or the most beautiful, healthy thing on the planet. But nevertheless, the way you're doing it is I'm making dinner for my family right now because I love them so damn much. So I
Yeah.
suppose that was the underlying intention is
I
just a
like
mindfulness thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I remember when I was doing my ACT training, one of the strategies for practicing mindfulness daily was to pick a task that actually is a bit grating and irritating in your day. Make that a mindfulness practice just for a period of time. Take a week or something. And so for me, it was dishes. And I remember hating dishes as a child. My mom taught me about what a psychosomatic like illness was because I would get rashes on my arms doing the dishes. She was like, I don't think that's the water. I think that's that you hate the dishes that much. And still I had to do the dishes. And so and always in our house too, like somebody else's job is to unload it. And if somebody else has done that, the dishes don't pile up. But here we are, two loads of dishes on the dish counter, and we can't even make supper. And it feels more than the dishes. So I was like, okay, every day as I'm starting my day, as I'm doing that puttering part of the day, I'm going to do the dishes. And I'm just going to do the dishes. I'm going to notice the dishes and I'm going to be present in the sounds and the sensations and the things as an intentional mindfulness practice. And I came to actually savor it. Like I was like, I enjoyed the sorting of it. I started noticing that I would get all the same sized cups and I'd put those together and I might arrange them in a way that was a bit more organized than haphazard. And I'd grab all the butter knives together. I'd do that. And then I'd stack up the forks. And there was this sort of intentionality of appreciating the pace of this moment where I can be present in a task. And I came to actually really enjoy that as part of my day because I intentionally made a shift toward doing it mindfully. So if I hear what that kind of similar flavors of what you're saying, it's not so much will show up in everything in your life and do everything well and or don't, right? It's not that sort of thing. It's a sense of having that awareness to be present in the day-to-day tasks.
Mhm. Yeah, like an aspirational statement. For me, it's certainly aspirational. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
like that. We went to Peru for 5 weeks when my kids were, like, 6 and 8 or something like that, and there was limited internet access in the house that we were renting, and I remember seeing them come to really enjoy and we just got into this rhythm where I remember they were having fun sweeping or playing with a bag and running around with that, and I came to enjoy, like, walking to the market to get food and the things we would encounter along the way because life just slowed down and we had limited access to technology or urgency. And we had 5 weeks. It's not like we're in a hurry to get to Machu Picchu and get out of there. It was that we are living in the Sacred Valley for this time. And how are we going to spend our time today? And how are we going to keep warm? There weren't heaters in this place and it was cold. And where are we going to go and find how do we find other ingredients? Because that store sells chicken and that one sells this other stuff. And there wasn't a big supermarket nearby, and we couldn't go to the supermarket every time. And it was, yeah, a much more mindful pace of being. And I often think back to that in, oh, how do we remember to do that in the middle of our busy
Mhm.
lives? It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
as busy as it is.
That's a really good question. And I'm curious if you've got an answer to it, but it's the problem of I've lived a pretty fantastic life where I've had a lot of phenomenal experiences. And the most recent, like genuinely impactful experiences, I had the opportunity to go to Colombia and I spent a little over a month living with these super isolated and remote tribes, one of which the only other people that had ever been to the tribe was the guy who brought us there. So it was like an unbelievable experience, absolute isolation. And magical experiences to the point where it's I can't even explain it. Like things that defy explanation in reality, where the only word that actually suffices is magic. And I remember one of the last days sitting on the beach with Bear, my partner, and Eli, the guy who hosted us down there, and just being like, okay, we're about to head back to Calgary. And like my whole reality's changed. My whole way of perceiving what is real has changed. And how do I bring that back? And then I got back and all my friends were like, dude, what happened? You're a totally different being. And I'm like, I know, right? And 6 months later, I'm back to life.
Yeah.
So it's such a good question. And it's not just like that doesn't have to be the experience because it can be a 2 week vacation in the Okanagan, or it can be a weekend long ayahuasca ceremony, or it can be any one of these things that kind of shake life up, reestablish pace, bring a degree of mindfulness, whatever it might be. Bring that Peru mind, that vacation mind back. I have no idea how to do it. And I am so curious if you do.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's dissect. What do you think the elements are? Like, because if we were to come up with a list of the things one might need to do to make that shift, we both went to South America. That doesn't necessarily have to be. What was it about South America? And so I see this disruption in routine, a
Mhm.
removal of technology. I think because technology has become compulsive for many of us, right? We're taken away from even the basics of the way we're doing life in those situations. And it's not like we've stopped showering or eating or anything like that, but those become more anchor points differently when you've taken yourself out of your typical environment, out of your typical routines, away from the kind of obsessive distractions that technology provides. Those were elements that were common in our stories. What else do you think are elements that worked there?
Think it might be the related to the first point of breaking up the routine, but I've got this perception, belief, I'm not sure, a sense of awareness that how do I explain this? And it's going to sound wacky, so bear with me, Carolyn, as I go through this because
I like
we're
your
getting into
wackiness.
Jess's deep wacky. So I got this belief that, like in our home, the place where we live, surrounded not just with our family, but maybe our extended family, like if your parents live nearby, or you got friends that you've been friends with for a long time, it's like there's this mold that exists in that sphere that is almost impossible to break out of it.
Yeah.
So in these situations, the additional thing is there's not the social and external pressure to be the version of yourself that you've been molded into. So there's that sort
Is
of
it
freedom
social?
of
Social like extraction from your social context.
yeah, not just responsibility, but all of the context.
Because then you could, and I'm hearing in there was a sense of, you use the word being, like that you
Hmm.
could be however you're going to be because there isn't that social placement of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But your partner was there. And so
Hmm.
that was a positive, like shaping together too. So there's a little bit of that being. You remained a partner
Yeah.
in that moment. And I was a mother and a daughter and a wife in when I went to South America too. Interesting. And do you feel like the way I'm thinking, like if I'm the listener listening to this going, if they've listened this far and haven't gone, these guys are pretty wacky and they're curious about creating those profound changes, or maybe do we need a, I've often done it as a work retreat. Like I'll go by myself to my brother's cabin in Kimberley, but generally I've brought work with me. Like the idea is to do some of that bigger thinking project work, like record the course, create the course, make the shift in my business that needs to happen where I can think about those things without the pressures of all of the life things, without the dog needing me, without a kid needing a ride, without needing to make anybody stuff. I'll make myself a big pot of stew or soup or something like that, and not even have the structure of needing to stop for and make a meal, but rather I'll have a warm cup of soup when I want to. And then maybe go for some walks or some hikes or things like that. But that disruption helps me do deep change work in my business. That's been my pattern. I haven't necessarily done that as a life reset or is a reset even what we're going for here. But creating, I used to do that kind of quarterly. Like it wasn't necessarily scheduled, but creating space in our, I feel like I've often advised clients to even build in, is it like a week, a quarter that you are not seeing clients, you don't have meetings where you pause and do a check-in. Is it you check your, I've even done it where I've got an Airbnb in the city and gone, and I needed to take myself out of the
Mhm.
situation. But again, I'm working, like I'm doing hard work during that time. It's a little different from what you're talking about, but we do, if we plan to have the space to do something like that, then the what we do or what we need at that time might vary and fluctuate from time to time.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I feel like there's sort of two simultaneous conversations. There's like soft reset, like the escape, take a couple weeks away, get rid of the distractions, hunker down, shift the direction of the ship a little bit.
Yep.
And then there's the 5 week, okay, something's actually changed. Like it's not just a pivot in direction and a reevaluation. It's like there's this deeper kernel of something that's shifted. And as we're having this discussion, I'm just thinking aloud here is what if that's the secret to maintaining the change? It's not like you come back home after 5 weeks in Peru and suddenly you throw away your cell phones and you get an outdoor shower. It's like there's all of these external things that shift and change. And maybe there's a conflation between the external things changing and that core little thing that's actually shifted. If I reflect on coming back from Colombia, I still genuinely believe in magic. Like that was too profound of an experience not to maintain, but it
Mm,
hasn't changed my everyday behavior that much because my environment requires it. Like I'm not
yeah.
living in a hammock. So maybe that's it. It's like there's two types of shifts. There's the soft shift, the reevaluation, the self-driven Cabin and Kimberly one. And then there's the deep experiential shifts that for some reason I believe they should be profound, when in reality, maybe it's just that tiny little change to one's more core way of being. If I'm making sense as I say this.
And do you know, I think people have those profound, deeper shifts of I am different in the world now, often with traumatic experiences. Sometimes there's that sort of post-traumatic growth concept with major disruptions. I hear actually a lot in perimenopausal women too of the like F this, burning it down. I need to regroup in life. There's a strong urge to that with menopause, which is super fun. Not fun, but there are like I think there are turning points of things that happen in life, major loss, major disruption experience. Some people, I mean, we both made big shifts in the pandemic too, right? I think there are so many ways we can come to that profound shift. But what I'm hearing in there is that we need an intentional maintenance practice of some sort. Like we need to create space for those shifts to
Mhm.
happen where we step out of the groove because it could be easy to go through the rest of life on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you just kind of nailed in on it. And it's certainly something that I'm a strong proponent of is the insight illusion. Those moments you're like, oh, the reason I am the way I am is because of this, because my
Mhm.
parents suck. Great. And then forget to do the actual work to integrate that. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's like maybe that's the trick is to have an intentional integration practice
Mm.
after the aha moments.
Yeah. I feel a calling for us to create some of these supported spaces.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like it. I like it.
Okay, we'll talk some more about that because what we both need is more things on our plate right now.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Why not?
Jess, this has been so good. That
Mm,
feels like a really good kind of peak to wrap up on. How do you feel about that?
beautiful.
Okay.
Awesome conversation. That's so much fun. I hope it was of interest and value to the listeners. And if you're still here, thank you for listening.
Yes, for sure. I have a few last questions I ask everybody. Are you
Love
happy to answer those?
Yes, please.
Okay. What does being brave mean to you?
I think to be brave is to be as much of yourself as you've got the capacity to be.
Oh, you know what? People usually answer that question pretty similarly.
Mm,
And that was a unique answer. I like it. So when you say that you have the capacity to like that asterisk, tell me what's behind that.
yeah. I think it's scary to be one's full and honest self in all situations. For me to, when I was first starting my teaching career, to stand up on a stage and be the version of myself that I am now, it's just, I didn't have the capacity. It was too much.
Mhm.
But the pressure, like the reason I asterisked it and I qualified is because I want to remove the pressure of be
Yeah.
authentic, be you all the time, just be your authentic self. Because I, for one, that's really hard.
Yeah.
And I do my best to be as much of it as I have capacity for in each situations. And sometimes I just don't. Sometimes I'm too run down and worn out and I'm just scared.
Yeah.
So I just acknowledge that and I'm okay with the fact that, you know what, I'm putting the mask on today because I'm too beat up right now to open up myself to any potential injuries that might happen. So it's just that compassion to just, yeah, be you, be authentic. The classic thing that everybody says, but
Right.
bring in a lot of compassion because there's going to be some days where it's okay to be scared and it's okay to just put the mask on because you got to make it through a day.
Yes, totally. I think there's so much shame in burnout because and actually the former definition was basically that you weren't coping well enough, right?
Yeah.
And that's evolved, but there's that sense of, oh, how did I get myself here again? And I shouldn't have gotten here. And then like in doing the rest we need to do in the I can't even vegging out on the couch and watching TV, like that is a phase that we need to not engage yourself in more. And so it's to acknowledge that this is what I have the capacity for right now. And I won't be here forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's beautiful. What's something brave you've done recently?
I would say acknowledging to myself where I'm at with my life and business to really be like, okay, all the things we talked about, which I'm not going to rehash, but honestly say, this is where I'm at with my business. This is what I genuinely need in order to work my way out of the basement to burnout. It was scary because after having spent 5 years and almost every waking hour of those 5 years building a business to be like, oh, okay, this ain't quite right. It's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very brave
Mhm.
shift. And how would you like to see practitioners, wellness practitioners? So we're mostly OTs listening, but right, you help a lot of different people. How would you like to see practitioners be a little bit more brave in the near future?
The first thing that comes up is a little redundant because it would be the same as answer one, just be more you.
And that's okay for that to be the
But
answer.
I think that's the answer is I strongly believe this, and this is at the core of so much of what I talk about is the more people who can just show up as themselves, the more we are capable of helping people. Because there are clients out there who vibe with the truest version of me. And when I'm being the truest version of me and vibing with them, I'm creating the safest possible environment for them to get well.
Yeah.
So the more we can be as close to ourselves as we've got capacity for, the more we, I believe, are going to have capacity to create those spaces for genuine transformation and healing. Because people will feel safe to be them, their genuine selves.
Yes, very much. I've learned that in marketing too, that the more I try to polish things, the less I'm resonating, obviously, with the people who need to see it. And the more I show up with all of me, the right people connect. The wrong people are not interested, and that's perfect. Yeah. It seems almost too easy.
Yeah,
Just be you is the key.
that's it. I think a healthy business is a matter of exclusion. I know it sounds terrible, but it's
Yeah.
who we don't serve matters as much as who we do.
Yeah. So being willing to be disapproved of by being
Mhm.
ourselves is a big part of it.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Or just to turn some people off, to have people unsubscribe from your email list, for
Yeah.
instance, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so people who might be interested in this course that you have coming up or other things that you do, how can they get in your world?
The easiest way is, and I'll make sure that you got a link for this for to put in the show notes, is I've just finished a free course. That's the 3 things they didn't teach you about business in school. Which is just a quick little hour mini course, which it touches on some of this stuff, going through 3 super important things, and it is a potential lead into the full business course.
Right?
Otherwise, you could check me out. My podcast is The Conscious Practitioner, or just go to aimonline.com.
Love it. Thank you so much, Jess.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you so much. What an awesome chat.
Thanks so much for listening to the Brave OT podcast. If this episode with Jess sparked something for you, maybe an idea, a sigh of relief, or even a tear, I'd love to hear about it. I'll put a few ways to contact us in the show notes. We can keep this conversation going in the Brave OT podcast Facebook group as well. If you're looking for space to do your own inner work as a practitioner without the hustle or shiny productivity promises, check out the Activate Vitality program, my group coaching program designed to help OTs move from burnout to brave momentum. And watch for Jess's upcoming course. I really look forward to sharing about that when it's ready. Be sure to subscribe, share this episode with a friend who gets it, and if you're feeling generous, leave a review. Every listen and every message keeps this work going. Keep showing up authentically, even if it's just as much of yourself as you have capacity for today. That's enough. As always, be brave, OTs.